Hello, and welcome back to That Time We Woke Up in a Podcast and Had to Explain Manga, our heated adventures, overanalyzing manga that we find interesting. You might be hearing this many centuries in the future after awakening from a stony prison. Well, if so, that's oddly specific, but also very helpful, because this week we read Dr. Stone, chapters 1 through 12, the prologue arc. So, sit back, relax, don't be so stiff, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Over Manga Cast. My name is Sam, and as always here at the top of the show, we like to talk about our familiarity with the franchise that we read this week. We finally got another new property for the show here on the podcast, and for me, Dr. Stone falls into the category that the vast majority of things have. If you've listened to our previous 52 episodes, you probably know what I'm about to say. But OP for anime slap. Me listen much. Not read manga, not watch anime. Until now. Unga bunga. And that's about it. How about you, Jacob?
It's like Bill Nye, but an anime stroke manga, which is a pitch. In all honesty, I didn't really know about the Shonen Jump app at the time, so I just never really, got around to finding it. In a lot of cases, I forget that there even is a Dr. Stone anime. Sam hasn't sent the OP to me. It's the rare case, but
I haven't shown you Good Morning World? Oh, damn, that one's great.
Not as far as I recall, but it is
correcting that.
It is a series I have been aware of, though never really engaged with, even more so than a lot of the things that we've done.
All right, how about you, Matt?
So Dr. Stone was one of the series I read weekly for a bit. I didn't start when it started, obviously, but I caught up. I read it week to week, and then for a long time, I kind of actually dropped off of it. But then when I heard of it was ending recently, so I'm like, oh, well, I got the Shonen Jump app. I have all the chapters. I can catch up. Because I think you get locked out at 100 chapters a day, which was less than what I needed. So I marathoned the rest and then read the last couple of chapters as they came week to week. So yeah, I've read this series in its entirety.
All right, and Jay, your experience with Dr. Stone.
Ooh. So when I first heard of Dr. Stone, what drew me in was, I think, the art. This was back before the anime had come out. The manga was, I think, just coming over. It has been on my list for a while. I have essentially been anxiously awaiting the time when the podcast would read Dr. Stone. I have glimpsed pieces of the first couple episodes of the anime, but then decided I would hold off and read the manga. So the point is, I have been anxiously awaiting reading this, and I was really excited that this was on the list, and I love it, and yes.
Excellent. All right. So we open up with a rather foreboding prophecy of doom. Every human on Earth turned into stone.
It gives this like cold open whammy panel of, and that was the day the entire world was encased in stone, and it shows the greenery is reclaiming its city with a bunch of people statuized.
Yeah, but we don't linger on this for long before we are introduced to our principal characters. Our pair of best boys, we have Senku and Taiju. Taiju is he's a lovable dunce. He is very strong. He's got a big heart, and he very, very loudly proclaims that he is finally going to confess his love for their classmate, to which his friend Senku says, okay, but, screaming it here in the science lab isn't gonna do squat for you, right? Here, drink this love potion.
It will increase your chances of success by 10 billion%.
Yeah, this is where we get introduced to a lot of the running gimmicks for our two principal characters, namely Senku's penchant for using 10 billion%.
Yes, because that's a real number.
It is technically a real number.
Resident number expert here. A billion is a real number, Jay. Even if you have 10 of them.
I'm just saying the logic of including not only billions of percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could just move the decimal place twice and say multiplied by.
Yeah, but Senku's the type of man who doesn't do anything unless he's absolutely sure of it. And what's more sure than 100 billion% sure?
100 billion and one.
Yep. Which is why he felt very confident that Taiju would not drink the love potion, which is good because it was actually gasoline.
The sense of
Yes.
humor of this man.
You know, one of the other science club members is like, so would he have died if he took it? And
Senku has a very lethal sense of humor.
Yeah. See, the thing about that though is I really like this introduction for them because in, you know, the hypothetical world where Taiju wasn't as, good-hearted as he is and he actually considers it, Senku would have obviously not have actually given him the gasoline labeled as a love potion. I mean, heck, you've heard this podcast. One of the quickest ways to tell if people are really friends is if they're able to, rib and mock each other and everyone's laughing and having a good time about it. And the way that Taiju and Senku talk to each other, like the literal words sound so like obnoxious and disrespectful, but you can just tell from their demeanor, the looks on their faces, the way they take everything, that like it is such a good and natural representation of, in a lot of ways, the modern friendship. And I really appreciated how quickly it introduces them.
Yeah, Senku can't go a page without calling Taiju a fool, but also a very honest fool. And so his good heart is how he knew that his friend would not accept the supplement of the love potion, and how he could hand him gasoline safely.
And it's also they have a very deep level of respect for each other because Taiju completely owns that he is a fool. Completely. He recognizes his limitations, but he fully trusts Senku enough to just wholeheartedly believe whatever he says. I know you're the smart guy. That is not my strong point. I'll be your muscle.
Yeah. It's like Jake said, it's a very quick way of establishing the dynamic. And we are also introduced to our third principal character, Yuzuria, Taiju's previously alluded to love interest, the one who he said he would declare his love for after 5 long years of keeping this secret. Before he can, a mysterious flash of light erupts in the distance.
I think another important part is a bunch of students, including the science club, is watching this scene play out, and everybody's taking bets on how badly Taiju is going to get rejected. Senku is incredibly confident that she will reciprocate his feelings. And then right before he says it, of course, the plot happens because that's kind of inevitable.
A mysterious light washes over the world, and every person the light touches petrifies into stone.
Yeah, my favorite part about this scene is just how dark everything is as we get like people's reactions, because you get like a nice crowd shot where people are blind. Well, they're not even blind. They're deaf and like completely cut off from the world. They are in their own heads alone. You just get a shot of people not knowing what's going on and just several people just concluding, is this what death is?
Is this death? Yeah.
Am I having a stroke? What's going on? Everything's gone dark. You see planes crashing out of the sky. You see cars slamming into each other. It's honestly really horrifying. Like, it messed with me something terrible. It's like, we're only 5 pages in, manga. Calm the hell down.
As the petrification is setting in for everybody, we also get a really important, in my opinion, flashback of earlier that day, where there is the mechanical plot element of it that Taiju had found. I believe I think it's a sparrow. He thinks it's been petrified and turned to stone. Everybody else is telling him that's obviously a sculpture, because nothing can, what could just turn a bird to stone? That's absurd. Do you think you're in a manga or something?
Well, as it turns out.
He sets out to take it to a vet. He gets there and he realizes that, the clinic isn't open yet, so this is a problem, isn't it? If I wait until it opens, I'll be late for school. And then he sees Yuzuriha. She ribs him a little bit. You dummy, you didn't think through the consequences of your action. And he's being all bashful. Wait, why are you here? And then she holds up another one of the petrified sparrows.
We're both dummies who don't think through things, and they share a laugh.
Yeah, and in a similar way to the way that Taiju and Senku interact with each other, it gives off the same sort of vibe of in a really simple scene that doesn't like linger on it or exposit it at you. There's never like a narration box that like explains in laborious detail these characters are close. It just shows it in a very natural way. And I think that the way that the dynamic between Taiju and Yuzuriha and Taiju and Senku is established is really, really well done. And by extension, because we see less of Yuzuriha and Senku interacting, but what we see of their interactions, like basically it's the three of them are really well established as the squad.
Yeah. And it's a good thing we have this heartwarming scene because we are treated to a rather unsettling montage of civilization breaking down, including animals breaking free from the zoo, wild dogs running through the statue-laden streets, and a poor doggo who is wondering why human won't move.
Yeah, some poor fluffy dust bunny creature.
Well,
I feel so sorry for Doggo.
I'm sure that dog lived a long and happy life, and there are no apex predators in Tokyo.
One of the things that was pretty quickly established during the petrification was people were kind of fading out of consciousness, like settling into a torpor where they weren't thinking anymore. Not our boy Taiju. He was going to confess to Yuzuriha. He has to let her know. He has to make sure that she's safe. So he keeps latched on to that one burning hot.
Yes, burning hot, all right.
Yeah. And he refuses to let that go. And that keeps the admittedly dull spark of his mind alight for thousands of years.
Reminds me of that Doctor Who episode. You know the one.
Yeah.
There is a very strong impression that like you kind of know that because he's been established as a bit of an airhead, Taiju's like narration of his experience of it isn't necessarily accurate, but like he's thinking like it's been, it feels like it's been thousands of years, and by the time he is revived, there is absolutely nothing of any kind of like, man-made civilization-y elements left anywhere. It is pure nature as far as the eye can see. Like not even like the greenery reclaimed skeletons of skyscraper. It's just all gone.
Yeah, that is the magnitude of time we're dealing with. So that even like skyscrapers and buildings have crumbled into the ground and have been absorbed. Like, the level of things that are left are literally only, like, solid metal structures, and that's about it. And even those have been overtaken.
Yeah.
And even those are horribly corroded. Taiju does finally break free, though. The hard stone exoskeleton breaks. He shatters out of it and emerges butt-ass naked into this new world in a really macabre statue garden.
Yeah, because over time, statues have been exposed to the elements. Some of them have toppled over and shattered, and just knowing that that is all that you've kind of withstood.
Yeah,
I guess.
He mentions in passing, and this is a background detail that Senku later reiterates, that the reason he is where he is because he had been washed down a river, and a lot of the stone people around him did not fare too well in the transition. It is notable that like none of the statues seem to like erode from rain or anything like that. Everyone's like still people shaped, but just the nature of some stone
getting swept up by a river and knocked over a cliff is still going to break the rock.
Yeah, stone construct with spindly limbs will crack, and Taiju, he's the kind of character that you can always predict what he's going to do. He tries to reassemble someone, and when he realizes that this is a lost cause, he takes a moment to say a prayer for their peace over them before moving on.
He wanders around. He's like, so long as the terrain isn't too different, I can probably still find my way around. I got to get back to that tree and hope that Yuzuria is okay.
And
And
fortunately, she is.
Well, it's because when he was confessing to her and the explosion thing, the last thing he said to her before he turned to stone was, "Grab the tree and hold on." And she did, and the tree got her back.
Yep. She stayed attached to that and is now covered in vines and
the tree
like
grew.
creeping trendles and everything, but she was kept there safe and didn't break up when getting washed down the breaking dam.
The tree actually grew around her.
The various hideousness that happened in the first half of this this opening chapter, Dr. Stone is a fairly lighthearted manga. I feel like if, this was Chainsaw Man caliber of darkness, we'd focus on the fact that this man has, experienced 3,900 years of time of basically unbroken consciousness and the horrors that would cause. But we don't dwell on that too long. The most we have is finding her, being relieved, and then collapsing to his knees, crying, saying, "I survived all this time, but you're still Stone. I've loved you for hundreds and thousands of years, and I still can't admit it to you." But, being a shonen protagonist, he immediately is like, all right, well, I got out somehow. Gonna figure out how to save you two.
Time to do something about it. At which point he notices into the trunk of the tree is carved a message telling him what direction to go, you oaf. At which point he immediately knows who's responsible for the message.
True friendship right there.
Yep.
It really is. It is true friendship because there's your man Senku.
He is fully acclimated to the new time. He explains to Taiju that how he managed to keep his mind sharp over the eons. He literally counted the seconds.
Yeah, today is October 15th, 5738.
Yeah, my favorite part about that too is when we get the flashback to his time in the stone. Senku got bored of counting at one point, around 800,000 seconds. He realized he was nodding off. So that was not enough to keep his mind entertained. He needed to count as well as think. So he just has like parallel processing going on where he is constantly counting in addition to he did a shonen training arc for thinking over his time period. Meanwhile, Taiju was perfectly content staying conscious with, I really love this girl, I really love this girl, I really love this, and that's all he needed for 3,000 years. Yeah, 3,000.
Just saying, find you a man who cares about you like Taiju.
Exactly.
It really shows the difference between the two of them. Though I did actually do the math, and
dual core processing brain.
I did actually do the math because they're pretty consistent about it. Specifically 3,700 ish years. It's within a decade or two of 3,700.
Mm-hmm.
If you count back from when Senku says the date, it's actually a little bit forward in time from when Dr. Stone was released. It's closer to about 2050 or 2049. That may mean something. There might be some, sci-fi tech thing. I specifically filed that away in my brain as
an Easter egg.
It's like if obviously it's going to explore why this happened, because Senku is immediately like, there has to be an explanation for this. Magic is just, science we don't understand yet. I'll figure this out. And I'm thinking the fact that it was 2049, unless that unless the final number of seconds date that he gave when he got out of the stone wasn't the whole count or something, this might be nothing.
Off somehow,
or even not even if he was off, but it's if the count that he gave wasn't the full count or something like that, but it's one of those Dr. Stone, to some extent, is challenging you to think alongside Senku, and that's one of the little details I noticed that might be something that ends up coming into play later on in the series.
Indeed, but for now, Senku has been unpetrified for about a year before Taiju finally woke up, and he has been using this to begin his process of rebuilding civilization from scratch.
With science!
I'm just going to get the Exalted reference out of the way now. Senku is a Twilight cast. He is exalted to rebuild the glories of an advanced time from literally nothing. And I am absolutely about it. I am here for it. Senku says, well, I've got you here now, so I've got all your muscle to go with all my brains. We are going to rebuild the world and save your girlfriend.
Yeah. And 100% on board.
We're the Adam and Eve of this new world, but Senku, we're two dudes. It's a metaphor, you oaf.
What's a metaphor?
Yeah, there are a couple of little after chapter like codas that are pretty fun. We get a Mecha Senku at one point explaining certain details and things like that comedically.
Mecha Senku is my favorite little gag because he always jumps in to be like, so what we're telling you is probably horribly illegal. Just breeze over that.
Oh, like when they actually teach you how to make a bomb?
Don't do this in real life. This is real science and will make an actual explosive, which is very illegal.
Hey kids, did you know you can make
Allegedly.
wine with stuff you just have at home? It's actually the easiest thing in the world to make. You don't need an ID.
Yeah, it's super simple.
This is also illegal.
Underage drinking, I'm over 3,700 years old.
It is a good enough time as any. He's not wrong. He actually is over 3,700 years old because he was conscious the entire time. My dude is thousands of years old.
Which again, objectively hideous, but Dr. Stone doesn't linger on that. Dr. Stone is here to have fun and basically just play Minecraft.
I mean, kind of. This is 100% the manga version of some like survival like crafting game.
Oh, guys.
Without any
Completely
cameras.
unrelated. We should read the Minecraft knockoff manga sometime.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
I didn't know that was a thing, but I'm
people get isekai .hack sign style into a Minecraft video game. It is not officially Minecraft, but it is.
But it might as well be.
Next time on the Over Manga Cast. Not actually.
Senku has been spending this year working on his thesis of how he was able to become unpetrified. And in fact, Taiju becoming fleshy again was partially confirmed this, because Taiju was in a cave, and that cave had bats in it. Bats that pooped. And that created nitric acid from the guano. Which,
damn bats in their poop.
That's helpful.
Look, if bat guano is good enough to be a plot point for Ace Ventura, it's good enough for this. Nobody?
I've seen Ace Ventura.
Nah.
No, I love that movie. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the second one, so it's aged much better.
But anyway, Senku has been working on trying to find the right concentration of nitric acid from the guano to unpetrify things, starting with birds. And Taiju is brought into his laboratory with shelves upon shelves of stone birds.
Raises more questions of like, why collect so many stone birds? Why not just, reuse the stone birds?
Because what if something that you put on the stone bird reacts with a new formula? For all of the goofy fun that Dr. Stone has, one of the really cool things about it is that it really does delve into the scientific method.
Yes, but then it's just like the fact that he's using them as like blank slides. But does that mean that he's not going to save all of the birds?
Well, no, because the whole point of it is he needs every single one of his tests to be clear of any like noise in the data. Presumably, I mean, honestly, given Senku's personality, he is the kind of science who is like, ethics, what are those? Like he's not quite that
He
evil,
totally
but
has ethics. That's the
yeah.
thing.
Like I don't know if he kept any for further testing, but I presume that Senku is the type of person who would release all of the birds once he got the formula working.
We don't expressly see that, but we do kind of learn through characterization later on that he's the kind of guy who would do that.
One of the things I couldn't help but notice about Senku immediately is like he has all of the character design and facial expression red flags of being like the most evil scientist villain, and then all of his actions say that he is actually, just as sweet as Taiju, just in different ways.
He's got the same kind of vibe just off of pure expression as Brain from Pinky and the Brain.
Yes.
But he's as good-hearted as Pinky, as well as Taiju.
Yeah. He uses his powers for good. This is actually a good opportunity to point out, since we're talking about like their process of trying to find the cure the petrification.
The miracle fluid, it becomes known as.
One of the things I really like about it is that despite the fact that Senku is presented as being a comically intelligent genius, and there are people like all of the characters have hyper, I guess except for Yuzuriha to some extent, but like basically all of the characters have hyper exaggerated like personality features. But one thing that they make a point of doing is that they show Senku failing at things. And even failing at intellectual things. I really like that they put in little things like he tries to make pottery and the pot just completely shatters because he has no idea what he's doing. Or later on...
Yeah. Oh no, that's my favorite part about Senku, because it is so easy when you're trying to write a hyper genius character to make them the hyper genius just by never being wrong. But it's believable for Senku because he knows a ton. He just doesn't always have practically applicable knowledge, but he is willing to apply what he knows and, work through the scientific method. He is a hyper genius by effort, not by
author clairvoyance, which is the trap you could usually fall into.
The main point of science is trial and error. So Senku's all about trial and error. If it didn't work, just keep trying. You'll get it eventually.
I feel like the comparison to Bill Nye but a manga does actually kind of hold some water, is that fact that it goes into the scientific theory and does it in such an organic way. Senku has that little exposition dump where he explains, that truth about science, that science is about failing and figuring out why it failed. The element of science being a process, not a list of answers in a textbook. I really appreciated that, and they expressed it showing Senku as having an absurd manga protagonist level of knowledge in his mind brain, but also being able to just make bad calls and make bad guesses that backfire on him in really organic ways. And it's very similar to why I like the way that the friendship between the principal three main characters, it is an absolutely spectacular example of showing instead of telling.
One of the ways that we know that Taiju isn't a complete airhead is Senku postulates that nitric acid isn't the entire formula for the miracle fluid. It needs some other reactive, and like alcohol. And Taiju's like, hey, wait a minute, Senku, you said we need alcohol, right? Yeah. Well, I found these grapes. We can make wine.
Saw.
That's perfect, you big oaf. Now get stomping. And they make something that tastes a bit like vinegar, but while Taiju
it's close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough.
While Taiju isn't happy with it, Senku's like, perfect. It's disgusting. But this is how we're going to distill it into brandy.
My favorite part of that scene is Senku has made himself a clay wine glass because he has to be extra.
Yes. Exactly. And he's swirling it around like he's a sommelier, and he's like, ooh, better than I imagined, but 10 billion times worse than mass-produced wine, as Taiju is actively vomiting. But they go about distilling some brandy. Taiju grows a beard and looks like a badass mountain man. I honestly wish she kept the beard. It looks cool.
No.
They do also, like...
She won't like it.
She can't have... Yeah, she won't like it. It's so rough and
Well, maybe Yuzuria needs better taste.
Excuse you.
that was rude. I apologize.
I apologize to the fictional character we're talking about. Okay, everyone feel better.
I did that like 2 episodes ago too. It's typical.
Welcome to the internet, folks. Says while sitting here stroking his villain goatee.
Indeed. But with the brandy, that is actually enough to mix with the nitric acid and produce the miracle fluid, unpetrifying a feather and subsequently a whole bird. And with this, get excited. We are going to rebuild the world. That's Senku's other catchphrase, get excited. And you know what? It works. I am excited.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where like Senku, like again, he has all those hallmarks of like the evil scientist character, and yet also like because he and Taiju are such close friends, they pick up characteristics of each other. So he has that shonen protag hype mode, and the two of them vibe off of it, which is great.
But yeah, another moment of like Senku being seen as like giving off the vibe of the gross mad scientist is he's like, I was also testing the miracle fluid on pieces of petrified human. You sicko! I tried gluing them back together first, but it didn't work. Oh, I then may their souls rest in peace. Anyway, let's unpetrify Yuzuria and Senku. Wait, what? She's naked. We can't revive her like this. Okay, fine. We'll take her back to base and make some clothes.
He like walks over like he's going to build like a sled or something, and then here's Taiju just yoink.
Because we forgot to mention Taiju is a Heracles-ass Superman. Incredibly strong. He can like Yuzuria like Yuzuria isn't a big person, but she is still a full-grown human and made of stone, so she's definitely not light as he just hoists her over his head like, all right, let's go.
I'm just saying part of his strength is he just does not overthink things.
Yeah,
just do it.
Just do it.
Sam, are you calling her chubby?
I'm saying she's made out of rock.
I'm saying, Sam, you're not a very nice lady. That's straight too.
Funnily enough, the "Are you saying she's chubby? She's rock" is the exact exchange that Taiju and Senku have immediately after he lifts her.
We live in a stone world 3,700 years after civilization. No one's gonna bother with someone's junk swinging around. She's a girl. She doesn't have junk. That's not the point!
You know what I mean! God, they're such friends.
Unfortunately, their arguing is taking too long, and lions show up!
Yeah, just the other thing I wanted to mention is that it's worth noting that Taiju has physical strength on manga character physical strength on par with Senku's intellectual level.
Oh, he's like early Son Goku in his
just
casual feats of strength.
As mentioned, unfortunately, they spend a bit too much time with this discussion, and they meet the new apex predators of the environment,
the lions. I guess this like attacking pride of lions is mostly female lions. There is one male in there, so it's like, hey guys, male lions don't go hunting.
It's also a completely different environment, and also.
It's been 3,700 years.
Yeah, the amount of time that has passed has not been enough time for like physical adaptations through natural selection, but behavioral adaptations are significantly faster. So, them operating, their hunting procedures differently.
They also couldn't have been hunting. They could have just walked into where they live, because Senku's a lot of things.
That is also
naturalist
possible.
is not one of them.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know the lions were there at all. Like, that's the other thing. Like, Senku was surprised they exist. And he's been out there for a year.
Yeah. It's like part of the reason Senku wants to rebuild civilization is because he wants to, save all humans and, return to the world to how it should be.
He also wants to go to space. Because yes.
But also, he's a weedy nerd.
Senku is not a
Yeah, this is not his.
Senku was not an altruist. He wants to revive civilization because that gets him back into space. He's a good guy, but he's not selfless.
But space. But
isn't space so cool? I want to go to space.
Indeed. Space is super cool. I want to go to space.
Space.
But the two of them run as far as they can, but they can't outrun the lions, and so they go to stand their ground because they are true brothers who would not abandon each other. And it's like, wait a minute.
Senku suggests distracting them while Taiju gets away, and they have the conversation of, we both need each other. But then Taiju remembers whilst he was out gathering things, he had stumbled across someone that he recognized as one of the stone people.
Yeah, because while Taiju is strong, he's not a fighter. He doesn't actually know how to apply his strength to violence. But there is somebody who does. Tsukasa Shishiho, the strongest primate high schooler. Also, Jacob.
Yeah, so immediately, my first thoughts, who dubbed him the ultimate primate high schooler? And was it in jest, or does
that 100% sounds like an MMA title, because in one of the little Senku blurbs, he's just like, he has, Robo Senku actually is just like, he has won every single MMA fight he has participated, even though he is just a high schooler.
He actively participates in MMA fights.
And is undefeated.
That's in his backstory.
Damn! He's just the perfect man.
And he is
Except for...
He is Tsukasa Shishiho, the strongest primate high schooler, and he has never known defeat. I have spent way too long on the Millennia fights, send help. But anyway, it's like, okay, so we were going to revive Yuzuria, but we need a combatant right now. We need someone with levels in fighter. So revive Tsukasa.
And they proceed to do that. And he shatters the stone shell off of himself with his muscles toward the lions as projectiles.
Yeah, this is another kind of brilliant show not tell moment, as Tsukasa is breaking out, notices that something is up, and he says, "What's our situation?" Senku meets his eyes, has a flash, and he goes, "Your body's covered in stone fragments, and lions are attacking us at 9 and 2 o'clock." And then he does the shotgun move.
Power of him flexing his muscles and straightening his arms fires the individual shards of rock on his skin as if it's like a shotgun blast, and knocks out a few of the lions. And in that distraction, my man runs forward and punches the head of the pride in the face, and then knocks out another lioness with a side swipe. He takes out this 8-lion pride like it's nobody's business, while looking absolutely hot while doing it, because dear God, is every single character in this super hot.
I'm gonna be honest, straight up, it was very hard to pay attention.
It's ridiculous. Why is this man so attractive?
So
he also has, it's also fun that he already has the wild man long hair. It's almost as if he was built for this time and place or something.
In all fairness.
Yeah. I know, and I promise I could fix him.
And there it is.
I forget if this justification was in what we read or if it comes up later. I think there is a throwaway line where someone says the petrification process takes a lot of calories, so it burns off all the excess body fat as it does it. Now that I've said it out loud, I don't think that happened in this section, but that is the weird throwaway line for why everyone comes out of stone looking so hot, because they are literally just their muscle.
I gotta say, I really like Tsukasa as a character, not just because he's hot, which he is, but he's the kind of paragon antagonist. We'll get to why he's an antagonist later, but he's the kind of paragon antagonist that makes him a perfect foil for Senku. And since his stone statue was first introduced, it's he's the strongest primate high schooler. And it's primate, you're immediately conditioned to think he's going to be Unga Bunga, me mash buttons caveman. But no, he's really smart. He's not quite Senku smart, but he's very quick on the uptake.
He's about as smart as a real life smart high schooler would be.
Mm-hmm. And it's like within a second of his head being unpetrified, he's like, what's our situation? He hears the answer and he formulates an attack. And, after wiping the lion pride, he says, all right, I'll be your fighter. He just slots so perfectly into the dynamic. He doesn't blink, he doesn't hesitate, and he is capable of assessing the situation in a heartbeat. It does make him kind of the perfect Senku foil. He skins the male lion to make some drip.
Yeah, he very, very quickly makes a entire outfit that is absolutely perfect for the scenario.
That outfit has got to be just fucking disgusting because it is not cured, it is not dried, it is live dripping animal skin.
Yes.
Gather around, ladies.
He's got that drip all right.
He then immediately strips it off to go fishing in the ocean, looking like a...
Probably should take that in there with him because honestly, probably the salt water would help.
Yeah. I just love how every time he's fully naked on panel, there's something to block his junk, and in this case, it's Senku's
every
wild
character.
Hair.
Every character's naked has like a weird... Taiju was naked at the beginning, and he had like weird bushes following him around occasionally.
I'm just saying, it's tasteful nudity. Very tasteful.
They know what they're hang about. A painting of it.
This manga is very scientific, so we need diagrams of the human musculature.
All 12 packs.
That's the excuse.
We have what appears to be the establishment of our new dynamic of hunter-gatherer fighter Tsukasa acquiring raw food materials for Genius Senku and Muscle Man Taiju as they continue their...
Yeah, and then Taiju will, get things like wood or clay or things like that. And then Senku will, science them up, better tools or better shelter, things like that.
Again, I made the joke of this is basically Minecraft the manga, but in a sense it is, and I think that's part of the reason why I enjoyed this so much, because I love the kind of compounding, building upon a foundation gameplay loop of Minecraft in that regard. You get wood to make stone, to make iron, to make diamond.
And in this manga, you just get wood.
We proceed with more acquisition of raw materials, in this case, calcium carbonate, which we get by smashing up seashells, which there are 4 deadly important uses for the stuff.
I meant 3.
I meant 3. My pinky was off to the side. Senku, you very clearly said 4.
3.
Yeah, Taiju takes Senku's word for it that he had actually said 3 all along, because like the way it's framed, he holds up 4 fingers. There are 4 deadly uses for calcium carbonate. It can be used to make the basis for early agriculture, the basis for early cement. It can be used to make soap, and that's it. There's nothing else. Didn't you say 4? No, I said 3.
Unfortunately, Tsukasa's not an idiot and is actually quite intelligent himself, so he's able to put 2 and 2 together and be like,
wait a
minute. Did he possibly mean...
And I mean, like, that's one of the things I really like, because you want to talk about times when Senku's wrong. He definitely underestimated Tsukasa as something that happened. Like...
Yeah, big time.
Thinking everyone else who's not you is an idiot.
Because it's normally true for him is the problem.
Yeah, that was sort of where I was going. It wasn't even necessarily like a disrespect kind of thing. It was really more Tsukasa's character that Senku had misunderstood, because like as they're like collecting shells and whatnot, the two of them start, having a conversation about,
what's the... But Taichu's like, what's the 4th thing? And there's a panel of Senku like, no, just 3. Didn't I say 3? Right, I guess a bad memory is a part of my weak mind. Lol. And, they're going off and having their fun. But Tsukasa's like, hey, wait a second.
Get a little backstory for Tsukasa. And he actually likes the new world because there are no adults around.
There's none of them adults. That's my Ryuji impression.
They make taxes and war and tell you need a fishing license to collect seashells for your sick sister. Tsukasa, this hypothetical example is getting very, very specific.
Let me punctuate my hypothetical example by ripping the head off this stone statue. Dude, you knew that was a person, right? That was an adult. What? We were just having a chill time, bro. What?
So, in this undefiled paradise of a stone world, we're only going to revive the pure-hearted youth, right, Senku? Lol, no.
Yeah, at which point Senku looks him dead in the eye, lol, no, and then thinks, I have to keep the secret ingredient to the revival formula hidden so that Tsukasa can't make it himself.
Can't ever have it. I'm back from the cave that has the secret ingredient of the miracle formula in it. Shit.
Oh, man. Yeah, and that hits us about the halfway point of our reading, so we're going to take a quick break here. Be back in just a second.
Welcome back, everybody. Conflict, as Tsukasa has revealed that he is not of a similar moral fiber to our boy Senku. No, he is taking the message of Persona 5 a bit too far. He wants those shitty adults gone, but he is willing to commit wholesale murder to do it. And Senku is not about that. Unfortunately, for the ensuing battle of wits, Taiju is too he's just too airheaded. He's too smooth-brained.
Too moral is also a weird complaint, but in this case, it definitely is a problem.
He is unwilling to see someone as anything but as saintly as he is, unless they directly in the moment show that they are not good people. And then on top of that, even then, he's still not willing to, do violence.
We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, actually. So where we left off was Taiju had ran in with the the miracle fluid, and had said, we have enough to revive Yuzuriya. And essentially, what Senku immediately does the mental calculations of, oh crap, he knows where the cave, he's gonna have to know where the cave is. We can't not tell him. That's gonna be way suspicious if we just don't tell him. So essentially, they have to tell him. And that's going to give them a small amount of time as he goes to investigate that cave, where they can figure out what they're going to do. Because they're still going to revive Yuzuriya, but it's clear at this point he's going to be killing people.
Tsukasa is not the fourth musketeer they thought he was going to be.
Yeah, they're definitely going to revive Yuzuriya now that Taiju has finished crafting a dress for her, so her modesty can be preserved once she is unpetrified. Unfortunately, there's just not enough of the miracle fluid. Someone's gonna have to go back and get some more from the cave. You know what? Tsukasa, you go for it. All right. Is he gone? Yeah, he was gone in a flash. What a speedy guy. All right, we're reviving Yuzuriya and we're running. Go, go, go!
I love there's a moment Senku looks at Taiju and is like, why would I put a bowl under the nitric acid drip that was too small? Why would I do that?
Literally, why would I do that? I mean, yeah, it was all a ploy. Now grab her and go. What? Why are we going without telling Tsukasa? He's a murderer. Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a problem. Okay, yeah. They proceed to revive Yuzuriya.
Unfortunately, Tsukasa, as I said earlier, is a great foil for Senku because he is just smart enough to apply his miraculous strength to be uber threatening as he goes into the cave, has some of the fluid drip onto his finger, and he's like, it smells like this. It stains my skin yellow. Bats. Ah, nitric acid. And it's like, oh no! And then he finds a petrified 2.5 kids family and shatters the parents. Oh no!
He has a nice leisurely trip through the garden on the way back to the group where he's just shattering
everybody. He shatters some kids too.
Yeah, He's a good guy who just so happens to be a murderer.
I never understood his sense of justice though, because he does have a reason for doing this. He wants to, disallow.
He has a child's sense of justice is what the
Well,
problem is. He has a
He-
I was wronged, so I'm going to attribute that to everyone of an arbitrary
He-
category. Like, he's a
also
despot.
got like a pretty nihilistic view of humanity is the thing. Like he sees that any form of advancement will lead to someone wanting to control others. And that control of like that technology grants you is like it accelerates it. It allows one person to be a tyrant to thousands, whereas he would prefer the world as it is now, where admittedly strength does like the strong rules over the weak. But that's not something that can be magnified hundreds or thousands of times. If someone wants to be in control, they need to like man up and do it themselves. Control is given directly from the individual, and if there's a bad person, you can take out that bad person and that solves the problem. He does not like modern society because it is nebulous, it is abstracted,
Yeah.
it is an evil he cannot fight 1v1. Yeah.
punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question is with regards to the parents. I mean, they're parents. That's not necessarily a societal.
It's not even like he thinks all parents are inherently evil. He thinks that adults have been corrupted in that they view the modern world as the only way. He is fully believing that in order to like have a fresh start, you need a fresh mindset. And people who have spent 30, 40 years in a system will want to return to what they've known. The only way you can start fresh is by cutting off the old growth.
Strength is pure and youth is pure. Therefore, only the strong youth should inherit this new world if we want to create a more pure humanity. That is his mindset. Unfortunately, he is immediately faced with Senku, who says, "No, science is cool."
Well, and moreover, there is like you're not supposed to be able to fully understand because he is being irrational. He talks about creating a pure new world whilst he's, killing people he has never met and knows nothing about. There's no good in that. There's no justice in that. Senku is willing to take the risk on reviving everybody knowing that he's going to revive some bad people because that's the most fair thing to do. That's the most ethical thing to do.
Well, also the fact that he hasn't really hit home with the fact that if these individuals, if potentially revived, would be in a similar state of play as themselves, who were conscious for all of that. So maybe they would have, seen or experienced the change and come away with a different mindset,
He doesn't care or think about that. That's why he has to be opposed. Like, that's the fundamental problem with his mindset.
Yeah, because the 4 characters we've seen revived so far, we know 3 of them were probably conscious the entire time. We don't really know about Yuzuria, but we can kind of assume that she was conscious the whole time in the same way that Taiju was. But we don't know what would happen if they found one of the people who immediately succumbed to, the void, essentially, and then they revived them. It's like, would they just be complete tabula rasa? Would they just be a blank slate of a human?
And really, the only way to know for sure is to experiment in a scientific way. Form a hypothesis, test it out, and see what happens.
And have as big a sample size as possible, which is the whole human race. But they go and they do revive Yuzuria. We have a very beautiful series of panels of, mostly flashbacks from chapter 1, but also a very dramatic moment of the stone shell collapsing and her falling into Taiju's arms in a very dramatic pose. And it was around this time that I noticed, wait a minute, her weird headphone things. Those were there before.
I think
what are
when
those? What is that?
I couldn't decide if they were headphones, if they were supposed to be like a headband, because I'm like, they don't reach
They're
her
not
ears.
over her ears, yeah.
I think does she have them when she's revived? So I think
Yes.
that's the stone. Like, because you see people with like the stone on them still. Like, that's her like thing that stayed there. I have no idea what they're supposed to be. Yeah,
So they're a Roncar.
Yes, that's their hollow mask.
Obviously.
But she is revived and she's a little confused, but she's like, "Oh, I'm here again and among my friends. So, what's going on? We have a supervillain. We have to run now."
I
Okay.
don't know
Okay.
what's going on, but I will help. Direct quote.
That's a mood.
Yeah.
She has the perfect
I,
look on her face for that comment too.
I like you. I like Yuzuria. And again, she and Taiju are a perfect pair. I think Senku was right in saying that they would that she would reciprocate his confession and they would be a couple.
Oh, and I mean, like there's going to be some scenes later that reinforce this even further. But all of the signs of like the way that they interact with each other, it's because like when he initially went to in the very beginning of the story, she's like, "Oh, is this a love confession?" And she starts blushing.
I will say this. I really enjoy Dr. Stone. There's a lot of mysteries in this plot that I'm eager to learn about. I don't think that character arcs are part of those mysteries, but that's not a bad
Yeah,
thing.
I was just gonna say that is absolutely by design. The mysteries are about the world and the phenomena, whereas the character arcs and the sort of like the personalities of the characters are all intentionally like very linear and exaggerated, so that the only thing that you question is the
Yeah.
prevailing
The
mystery
world.
Yeah,
of the
like Dr. Stone
petrification.
is definitely there. The two schools of thought of how you write characters is: do you write a character? How do you write a character journey? Is it how a character is affected by the world they're put in, or is it how the character you've created affects the world? And Dr. Stone is very much in the latter camp
Mhm.
of like they are all strong personalities who go out to make something, and those strong personalities clash.
Yeah.
But like, there's not really a story of like how do they get there, because that's not the story it's telling. It's like
Mhm.
the fantasy of starting the world over is obviously not you're going to realize you can't, because that's not a good story.
We fully expect Senku to recreate smartphones and the space shuttle. We just need to
Get
we
there
need to
first.
enjoy the ride of getting there. Yeah.
But unfortunately, Tsukasa gets underestimated a lot because his running speed was also underestimated. He manages to get back before Senku can finish explaining what they need to do.
Mhm.
He reveals that yes, I did say four. The fourth thing that calcium carbonate can be used is to make gunpowder, the great equalizer.
Yeah. The great equalizer.
Oh, I love
Firearms.
I love the panel for this because it's a gun going off and a detailed thing of the bullet, and I'm just like, ooh.
It's the rare case where you see a drawing of the gun with the slide back from it
Yeah, I'm
being
like,
fired.
Boichi, you spend your time on these two panel spreads, and when you do, everything looks amazing. Let's stop right there. Like,
Everything looks amazing, but
Oh,
in
yeah.
particular when you stop on those
this is when you get the real benefits of a two-man team. Like two-man teams always have amazing art. Like this Platinum's End we talked about had amazing art because that's a two-man team.
yeah.
We constantly gush over Murata in One Punch Man, two-man team. Like,
Absolutely. And I am never ready for high rendered Senku. The random panels where Senku says something scientific and he's rendered in 1080p. I, it's like, okay, sure.
But yeah, as Senku is in the process of explaining all of this, that's when Tsukasa returns, and by this point, basically everybody's dropping all pretenses. We know where this is all going. This is another example of it's like Senku is not unga bunga strong villain. He is. They imply he's not quite as strong as Taiju, but he's at least close, and he's certainly not as smart as Senku, but he has plenty of intellect and an understanding of science that he can be able to match Senku on that field.
The thing is, he's a balanced
yeah.
version of both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And like those two cover for each other's weaknesses by being extremes, but he is a perfect blend of the two, and that makes him basically a one-man
and
army.
like when you also take into
Yeah.
effect Tsukasa has just immeasurable combat experience when the rest of them are just high schoolers. Like, they have never been in a fight. He has been in hundreds. There is no comparing the two.
Which is how he catches a crossbow bolt because he took levels in Monk.
moving 200 meters a second.
Yeah. That is specifically called out by Senku.
I don't think it's a second.
Hey Matt, you remember that time I crit the the deflect missiles roll?
That's about what he did.
The only thing is, Tsukasa didn't immediately yeet it back at Senku and pierce his throat with it. He just caught the missile.
Tsukasa is like, you're not supposed to like sympathize with his perspective. It's pretty easy to catch the fact that he is a pretty uncompromisingly bad guy, and that, you know, his train of thought was derailed before it even got into the station. But he is also the spooky thing about him is that he does have a reasonable bent to him. Like he doesn't want to go to extremes. It's just he decides that, you know, like his threshold for where you have to go to extremes is lower than it should be.
But that's why I said that he's a great villain paragon, because he has a very pure ideal, and he is absolutely uncompromising in seeking to make it real. He just also is an antagonist and will do harm to make his ideal come true. And that's how you know he
Yeah,
can't
Sam,
be
I was
dealt
literally
with.
just about to say the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
his morality is definitely different than the main characters, but it is also consistent. Because he constantly says, like, Senku, Taiju, Yuzuriya, you guys would fit perfectly in the world I want to create. I know you're Senku, I know you're against me right now, but like, just if this works out, like, I have no problem with you doing your thing. Just, we can't revive everyone. That's not gonna be great. If you're gonna keep challenging me on this will inevitably come to blows. But right now, like, I'm consistent. You guys are not corrupted by like the modern world. We can still, like be
safe.
a team, because there's a long time where the three of them have decided they're enemies, where Tsukasa has still not made that decision yet. He's like, no, we can still be together. I know they're not happy I'm killing these people. They can't stop me. And are they just gonna let me do what I want? Is kind of the thing. And it's,
If they're willing to let me do as I please, I will let them do as they please. And he's trying to convince them to, if you're not willing to, if you want
If you're
to
not
split
with
off and
me,
be,
you are against me.
well, no, it's even more than that. It's if you're not willing to be on my team, I can accept that and I won't fight you for that, just as long as you don't get in my way. And that, but like, inevitably they're gonna get in his way, because, you know, they're all three of them are very much against killing people.
Is this a scene where he has like the flashback of like, Senku, if this had been a different lifetime, those 3,700 years ago, I could have been your friend. And then it cuts him into all the
Oh no, that is a bit later.
Yeah.
It is a very cool scene. But you know, this is basically the moment where they have the big standoff, and Tsukasa's like, yeah, I'm not willing to kill all of you quite yet. I'm going to do what I'm meant to do here. Don't get in my way, as he, you know, walks off into the jungle to go be a badass. And Senku's like, all right, we're gonna have to jump forward about 1.9 million years and accelerate straight to gunpowder. We don't have another choice.
Yeah, the thing immediately preceding that was a bit of a fun moment where after Senku's crossbow fails, Taiju proceeds to, air quotes, fight Tsukasa, really more meaning that he offers himself up as a punching bag. If you feel the need to hit someone instead of hitting the stone people and killing them, you can just punch me.
My favorite part of that is Tsukasa's reaction, who just goes, there's a full like panel of what? And then it's, I'm sorry, let me reiterate what you've just proposed to me. Instead of destroying statues, I can punch you. That's what you're offering, right? Yes! How in any way is that a deal? I'm just not going to do that. Like,
yeah. Well, that's great, because it shows how, you know, Taiju fundamentally doesn't really understand why Tsukasa's doing what he's doing. He thinks that Tsukasa's just taking out aggression. No, Tsukasa has a defined goal. It's not, I'm hurting, so I'm going to lash out in any way I can. It's, I've been hurt. I have a very defined enemy who did that. I'm going to go kill my enemy. and Taiju isn't his enemy.
Yeah. The sort of funny thing is Tsukasa and Senku both have the exact same reaction to Taiju's proposal, which again, it really goes to show what a good foil Tsukasa is for, I mean, for all three of them in a lot of ways, but specifically for Senku, where like in a lot of ways they think a lot alike, you know? It's just there's some fundamental differences.
Senku's more charitable in the long run. But yeah, it's like we've been kind of slowly creeping our way through civilization. But hey, how about we jump forward 1.9 million years and accelerate tech straight to gunpowder? Jake, does that work in Age of Empires?
Well, I mean, if you're playing the Turks, you can fast Imperial, so I guess they're playing Turk.
Hey, why is it Constantinople not Istanbul?
It ain't nobody's business but the Turks. Obviously, Senku's doing the planning for this flight. They tossed their camp like they were running without a plan, and then they head off in a direction only Senku know. I think Senku actually does explain where he's going, but the two dum-dums don't. I mean, Taiju
they don't catch on immediately.
Taiju explicitly says, "You can explain things, and I still won't understand them, just so you know."
That's why I love Taiju. He is the penultimate audience surrogate.
He's 100%. I know my best friend real well. Senku is all about efficiency. He doesn't want to waste calories explaining something that is gonna meet deaf ears, so I'm saving him the trouble.
Yep. Well, it's because like Taiju's airheaded, but we see throughout this that he's not entirely stupid. He is capable of reaching conclusions and having clever observations. He's just well behind Senku in that regard.
And so he lets Senku do the thinking for both of them when Senku's around.
But it also allows him to be a great audience surrogate because, you know, reasonably, most of the audience isn't going to be as smart as Senku because most of the audience doesn't have author pre-knowledge.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, even if you're a nerd and know some of the things, like the fact that you can get calcium carbonate from shells because in your youth you were obsessed with extinct animals and fossils and whatnot, you know, so you know what
Jacob
bones are made of and things like that. You're not going to know everything that Senku knows.
Jacob, are you telling me you didn't go to Africa to study Ebola and then in the time over there eat lion?
No, I didn't do that. Funny you mentioned that particular element, Matt. One of the quickest ways a fictional character can eclipse a real person in terms of knowledge base is by being a degree of expert in multiple different fields. You know, that's sort of the thing with a character like Sherlock Holmes. It's like no individual knowledge base that he or Senku or any other genius character that you can peg is that unreasonable. It's the fact that they know so much of so many different fields.
Wait, Jacob, are you telling me you can't recognize the color of mud that only comes from the bathing district of London? I recognize that on sight when it comes on the left side of someone's shoe.
I cannot recognize that, no.
For further reading, watch H Bomber Guy. Anyway.
But yeah, point being, it doesn't, like, even if you're a nerd, like, even if you come to Dr. Stone from a, you know, because like this is a manga about science. Okay, I'm a nerd. Like, you're still gonna get left behind by Senku at some point because nobody's an expert in everything unless you're a fictional character. So Taiju is there to be like, go ahead and explain this to me exactly once. I will have no idea what's going on, but it's perfect exposition for the audience. Like, it's not quite as meta as that, but he almost literally says that.
But they journey on their gunpowder adventure and they find a big statue of the Buddha.
Taiju's over here having a religious experience, and then Senku has to slide in and ruin it.
I actually love this. I love this entire sequence.
Oh, I do too.
Because Yuzuria has, like, she starts crying because this is, like, ever since she was revived, it's been nonstop shown in action. So she hasn't really had a moment to breathe, let alone think. And now it's like, oh, and like, it's a big statue of the Buddha. He's missing an arm and everything else is covered in moss. So it's like, oh, I really am like 4 millennia divorced from the life I once knew. everything that I knew is gone. And that hits her all in one really detailed panel of
Because
her
up until
crying.
now, you were able to like distance yourself that maybe this wasn't even Earth. Like maybe they got isekai'd somewhere else. This Buddha was, nope, this is Japan.
Yep.
She'd been there before.
This is Japan.
Yeah.
This is Tokyo. This is something that she knew.
It is
And
magnificent to see in person.
I have no doubt I would wish to see it myself. Hopefully not 4,000 years removed.
Go break open the Buddha to make a mirror.
Support the Patreon.
You should make a Patreon.
There is this beautiful moment of, Taiju reading religious significance into it, and Senku's like, no, the statue's here because it's made of bronze, but there's no vegetation around here, so we could find him. No, the copper ion seeped into the soil, and that killed the plants. Look, Senku, stop being a killjoy. The point is, the Buddha is here. He gave us a beacon to work with. We have something to fight for.
And what I love about that is that it's like, yes, there's like the physical material world reading of that. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm in Senku's camp. That's the perspective that I look at the world from. But like, it is kind of miraculous. The copper ions happened to leach into and kill off most of the plants nearby so that they could fight. Like, you can see greater significance in that if you're so inclined. And
coincidence is incredibly easy to find if you're looking for it.
And it's like the cynicism of Senku and the inherent optimism of Taiju, really does go to show like those two perspectives, and that, I mean, they're best friends. It's not like their two perspectives are incompatible or anything. It's a really nice moment that kind of shows that is a thing the world could stand to remember every now and again.
Our heroes continue on their journey. We have a moment where Yuzuria is kind of limping along, and it's revealed, oh, she isn't fully unpetrified. Her foot is still slightly stone. And with some more of the miracle fluid, she is freed from that. And put a pin in it for later. They come to their final destination. We are in search of gunpowder, so of course we come to the hot springs. Thermai, everybody.
Huzzah.
We can't escape it.
Yeah, no, see, that's what they have to do.
We really can't.
No, wait, no, it's perfect. They just need to build a thermi on that spot, and then they'll be transported nearly 4,000 years in the past. No, that's how they get back to modern Japan.
In a bath. That's my favorite part, is Taiju actually does build the men and women side, because Senku didn't do that.
Taiju is a gentleman.
Too much of a gentleman.
He is.
Yeah, that came off as sarcastic. No, he is legitimately a gentleman. That's kind of important.
And we have another moment of, again, I really do think that, like, if you want to study what a hero villain foil looks like, just read this section of Dr. Stone and look at Tsukasa and Senku, because while our heroes are chilling in a hot spring and collecting sulfur from the volcanic left behinds, Tsukasa comes to the encampment, finds their footprints, and immediately pierces the deception check that Senku made and says, the only thing that they could do to beat me would be to revive weapons of science, such as a gun. So they need sulfur, so they go to Hot Spring. They're in Hakone. As our heroes are in Hakone saying, we're making gunpowder to defeat Tsukasa.
There is very much an element of Tsukasa. He has knowledge like Senku does, but he's also a different kind of intelligent than Senku is, because one of the big things
he applies in his knowledge in very different ways.
Yes, because one of the big things is he thinks about it from the perspective of, okay, if I'm in Senku's shoes, if I have his goals and his skill set, what would I do in this situation? Like, he sees that the place is tossed and he's like, okay, this looks like they ran in fear. Okay, that's a possibility. But if I was Senku, I wouldn't run scared, because I have so much faith in science that it will equalize the strength difference between us. So he wouldn't just run. He'd make it look like they ran, but where would he run to? And like, he goes through the steps, and like the manga shows him going through the steps. There's even an element of, he's like, there's a chance they legitimately are just running, but I better go to
Hakone.
I'd better go to Hakone to make sure, because if they are there and I'm wrong, that's the
I'm
end
dead.
for me. Yeah, so that's when he sets off with his manga character speed. For a series that's supposed to be about science, it is sort of funny that they just like say screw it for character abilities and just,
I mean,
you know,
that's one of my
everybody's
favorite things about Tsukasa is he doesn't have a sextant and he has no idea where he's going. He's just like, I have a vague idea of where they might be. So he's constantly like zigzagging, like looking for them, but also heading towards that because he's like, I can probably outrun them. So he's just that fast, or also probably very likely is Senku is slowing down the group because he is not physically able.
One of my favorite moments of just showing how supernaturally powerful some of these characters are is Taiju going 80 kilometers. Okay, that's 2 marathons. Shouldn't take more than 5 hours. As he's stretching out his legs.
Senku is like dying on the ground of exhaustion. What are you?
My boy drags a boat across the river half dead from not sleeping in 3 days with his teeth. Like,
he's a machine. He's not a man. No wonder Senku likes him so much.
Senku was scared. What did I do?
Back in my old radio job, my boss ran a marathon, and I saw him at the end of that. I don't think a human is capable of doing 2, so I don't know what Taiju is.
He is a manga protagonist, is what he is.
Yeah, that's it right there. Senku is very very happily chipping away at the sulfur. He's having the time of his life collecting all these components.
And meanwhile, Yuzuriha and Taiju are having a moment on either side of the thermi that they made.
Yep. It's kind of curious because in a sense it kind of plays into what Tsukasa says of like we have to find people uncorrupted by the modern world, where like Taiju doesn't admit his love then, because like the whole point of he waited the 5 years to admit his love. He did that in the environment of being surrounded by peers in a high school.
He's not quite literally the last man on Earth, but he's pretty close to the last man on Earth.
And now it's like, okay, you admitted your love for this girl when you are one of 4 people that you know about 3,700 years in the future, and everything's been reduced to the Stone Age. Taiju says, I would be the biggest coward if I allowed this to be the thing that let me say what I meant to say. So I'm going to wait until we've revived more people and we've started to rebuild civilization, and then I'll tell you what I meant to. Those years
that
ago.
actually is very respectful, because if he were to confess, and okay, just say in happenstance that we did not have the prior, I think, knowledge.
Well, if we were in his shoes, if
she did not feel that way, how awkward
that would be the worst.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh yeah.
I totally understand where he's coming from, but I also really feel for poor Yuzuriha on the other side of the divider, sadly looking as she's twiddling her thumbs like you could.
That quickly becomes the horror movie cut of that Chris Pratt film Passengers, where it's like, I revived you. Hey, are we gonna be like together forever? You know, from my perspective, this is a horror movie, but luckily the movie's from your perspective, Chris Pratt, so it's a nice romantic comedy. I guess it's not a romantic it's a drama. But
that just level of just like, you may not like me, but now we're trapped together, so yay.
Well, no, and that's kind of why I really like Taiju. He's airheaded, but he has enough, self-awareness and awareness of other people to be like, if I do that sort of big dramatic thing right now, this situation would not only hollow it of all meaning, it would in fact impart it in a whole new meaning, which would be unfair to her. So I'm not going to do that. I can't blame him for hedging his bets.
But like in all fairness, the thing that I really like about this scene is Yuzuriha is the one who brings up what he was about to say, because it's very clear she knew what he was going to say. It's like, hey, we're in a romantic spot right now. You want to like pick up where we left off? And he's just like, no, we can't have any romance until the end of the manga. And I'm like, I respect that.
Because again,
Yeah.
he's an airhead.
Well, yeah, and sort of but the other thing I kind of like about it is it's really good characterization for Yuzuriha as well, because she could also just, drop the subtext and say it herself, but they're a lot alike. They're a good match for each other. How about that? And it's a really good way of putting like a little bit of light romantic tension without it like derailing the story or falling on misunderstanding or tropes of it's like jealousy or anything like that. It's very like true to the wholesomeness of the character's way of keeping that story hook without letting it get in the way, and it's very endearing for both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this manga is very good at writing characters.
Mm.
There's not a lot of mystery to the character arcs, but it's done in a way that hooks your attention.
Yeah,
and I can absolutely vibe with that.
It's an excellent example of the tropes aren't bad, tropes are tools sort of school of thinking when it comes to the way that the characters develop.
So the gunpowder is being made, and again, proof that Senku is incredibly smart but not omniscient or omnipotent. They part of the process of making gunpowder is to smash it. And so, all right,
smashing two rocks together won't create sparks. You'd need some kind of metal in there to chip to make the spark. That's how flash pans work.
And then I love Senku's like half-second realization as soon as he says, that's how flint works, is there's like large pockets of iron in there. And then he's like, wait, no, we're on a volcano. And Taiju is freakishly strong. Oh, no. And then the camera zooms in on a small piece of iron pyrite in the rock, and he's just like, oh, crap. And then kaboom!
I've made a mistake.
And there's a plume of smoke rising into the sky. And fortunately, all of our characters survived that explosion.
Yeah, they're worried that the smoke signal will alert their position to Tsukasa.
But it actually alerts their position to other survivors. And to dive outside, to dive a bit outside the manga medium for a while, I felt like I was looking at A Quiet Place for a second.
Yeah, I can get those vibes.
Yeah, because you know the scene in A Quiet Place where they go and they light the signal flare at the top of the silo.
Yep.
And it felt like that, but again, more lighthearted because this is a shonen manga.
The strategy at that point changes from we need to get rid of this smoke signal to we need to light up another smoke signal to make sure that's not just some random fire somewhere and that it actually is people signaling us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why they asked if it's like thunder or lightning that might have struck something.
They go and decide to accept the gamble and raise up the smoke signal. So Taiju, go get some more firewood. Yuzuriha and I will tend to the flare. And Tsukasa's here and holding Yuzuriha at knife point.
Knife. That's a thing to call it.
It's a giant stone spear.
It's a buster sword. Like the blade of that weapon is taller than Yuzuriha.
Edit Matt out.
It is entirely extra. Yes.
Like one step and I'll cut her head off.
I remember using a Flamberge in Dark Souls.
Yeah, same. Well, I mean, thinking logically, she doesn't really add anything to the group. I couldn't care 1 millimeter about that girl. Slice! And he cuts all her hair off. And, Senku immediately reacts to the violent action with panic and concern. As Tsukasa's like, yeah, no, you can't hide that from me. Yeah, your tactics are useless.
Tsukasa has one up on Senku in intelligence. Is Tsukasa more realistically knows how people act? Senku kind of is a little like aloof when it comes to like interpersonal interactions. He's got like a good like theory basis on a lot of things, and Taiju is like good on trusting the best. Tsukasa's got like a real nihilistic view on people that unfortunately in a lot of cases does really lead out to that's how people will behave, especially in stressful situations. They'll do this, and that's like where he gets the upper hand a lot of the time.
Yeah. Tsukasa
Senku has very high int and kind of low wisdom. Meanwhile, Tsukasa has mid to high both int and wiz.
Yeah, Tsukasa, and I mean, like, I think in a lot of ways, one of the big differences in the way that the two of them think is both of them are probably familiar with the concept of rational agents, and Tsukasa just assumes everyone always behaves as rational agents, whereas Senku
Yeah, Sam, when are you gonna be out of
recognizes
town?
that that's not always true. So I'm just going to do the predictable science over here and not pay attention to what people around me are doing. That's what we have Taiju for, which obviously doesn't always work out well.
So Senku is pretending that he can sacrifice Yuzuriha, but Tsukasa calls his bluff as he's like, no, you won't actually do that. You wouldn't sacrifice this girl. That is just not the way that you roll.
You know, as Senku is pretty overtly bluffing, he sweeps with the sword and there's a slice sound, but it's actually her hair that goes flying. There's a sort of funny line of Yuzuriha being like, "Oh well, thanks. I needed a haircut. It's actually easier to keep it clean like this." Like she's like full on like you know, like she is absolutely not a damsel.
Yeah, no, that proves that she's got a friggin' ice in her veins because, like, she's sweating from the stress of the situation and probably also because they're in a hot spring. But, like, she's like, oh, yeah, it would have been a real pain in the butt to keep my hair clean, the long hair clean in this world without shampoo. So thanks for that. Anyway, Senku, so long as he doesn't have the revival fluid recipe, he can't kill you. So don't worry about me as she grabs the blade of the spear and puts it to her neck. And it's like, damn, I gotta respect the metaphorical brass balls there.
She's very overtly extremely afraid to die because she's sane and stuff, but she also shows that, you know, especially given her character design, because she's designed to be very, very cute.
I kind of hate to say it, but like the way that her character is designed and the way she's shot in numerous panels, it's kind of always designed to like it's basically designed to show off her butt the entire time.
But like
Sam, those thighs, yeah. But like Sam, in all fairness, all the characters are drawn in such a way to show off their butt. Senku's got cake, in case you haven't noticed. Like,
Yeah, I mean, seriously, that skirt and those what?
like Sam,
I mean,
Them
that is
thighs.
objectively true.
all
you're
characters,
right.
regardless of gender, are equally objectified.
And I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that.
I noticed. I told you this entire reading was very hard to pay attention to.
similar sentiment to Eden Zero. I'm paying attention to Yuzuriha, but I appreciate the egalitarianism in giving everybody equal treatment.
Yuzuriha is framed as the throwaway damsel character an awful lot. And then she does this big heroic self-sacrifice play, which you don't typically get out of the damsel throwaway character.
She is not a prize to be rescued. She is just as much a member of the team as
and then
the
Senku
boys
is
are.
like, no, I made the promise that I was going to save everybody. So standing against a very dramatic flare-up of the fire, he says, the revival fluid is nitric acid and alcohol. He just gives away the entire game to Tsukasa in order to save her.
Including the ratio as well, which, to be fair, we've seen like them working out the process of making the miracle fluid, but we didn't get the ratios that he mentions in that moment. And I legitimately don't know if he gave the real formula or if he intentionally put in a mistake to trip Tsukasa up.
I'm of the mindset that he probably did give the real formula because Senku, no matter how smart he is putting his life on the line. So I think there's a little bit of him that's like, this information should still live.
Should live beyond me. Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's like from the perspective of like beating this opponent, giving him a fake formula makes sense, but also he is the type of person who would want knowledge
Mhm.
to live past
Because
himself.
in this situation,
So
it's
it's
either both of them will live or one of them. Either way, having the revival fluid formula be known to basically just kind of inject chaos, but also allow for the chance of more humans, potentially ones that think like him, to be revived. It,
hmm,
it's it's a real Xanatos gambit of a play. Like, sure, he could potentially die, but all of the outcomes serve Senku's ultimate goal. And again, that's why he's a complete
um
baller of a character, and I enjoy him a lot.
yeah, and this is actually the point where we get Tsukasa flashing back to, if we had met in the previous world, you could have
Mhm.
been my first friend.
Whole flashback. Sukasa's like, Senku, out of respect for you, I'm going to break your neck in the most efficient way possible because I know you'll never stop trying to oppose me, and I can't allow that.
There is also the moment where he's like, I know what the answer is, but Senku, please give up science and just let me do my thing. If that happens, I won't kill you. Senku's
I wouldn't give it up 1 millimeter.
Senku immediately lol knows him.
All right, well, I'll make your death painless. Boom!
Senku even goes as far as like, I wouldn't give it up 1 millimeter. So, I know you're not gonna, I know you're gonna kill me. I know I don't have a way out of this. So just make it quick, as he's cracking his neck, which he had been doing a lot since the post-apocalyptic portion of the story had
I
started.
mean, kind of. Well, no, he's been cracking his neck a lot, but the way he does it when he's talking Tsukasa is entirely different than how he's done it before. Also, how he's been doing it since then is Senku always like does it from his head. This time he explicitly is touching the back of his neck.
Taiju wasn't there when Senku gets attacked. He shows up as Senku is falling, so he didn't see that specific one. Yeah, Yuzuriya saw it, and
I wouldn't call this a Xanatos gambit because this isn't a situation where any outcome is beneficial to his goal, but this is definitely a huge gambler's play, as Senku is thinking, okay, Taiju would notice that I had been cracking my neck by like touching my forehead in a certain way. Taiju's not here. Yuzuriya will see me grabbing the back of my neck to, you know, to crack my neck in a certain way. I have to pray that the two of them will share this information and it will give them what's needed to let me live.
More importantly, he has no idea this will let him live. This is a theory.
Uh-huh.
he's guessing that this will save
Oh,
him.
he's absolutely guessing. It's it is several layers of wishful thinking, but it's also kind entirely the thing he'd do. It's the kind of thing that a man who would give his best friend a flask of gasoline and say, "Drink this; it'll make your love confession work," would do.
It's not blind guessing. He's basing this off of like, basically this is a theory that has some evidence towards it. It's not been adequately tested yet, but he's out of options. Tsukasa is standing in front of him, and it's like, do I let him run me through with the Buster Sword Spear, or do I try to manipulate him into breaking my neck?
My neck, which is maybe protected by a bit of stone that's still there.
Is this where we get Tsukasa's like inner monologue about how Senku, you and me are very alike in another world? I could have called you friend.
In the old world, we could have been best friends. And the really sad thing is, Senku completely honestly and seriously says, yeah, we probably would have been best friends. And then snap.
And we do have an entire like it's basically a page of the Yuji and Toda situation of, imagining memories of a childhood that never happened. But instead of being comedic for this over the top character, it's tragic because this is a legitimate what if scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And it's immediately juxtaposed with Senku falling limply into Taiju's arms as he screams in grief for his dead friend. It's When they want to do a big whammy panel, they do it.
Unfortunately, Tsukasa is still there, and Yuzuriha and Taiju have to do something. So they do what they can to enact the plan that they had originally had. Taiju rushes Senku, and it's one of those really cool moments where it shows that Tsukasa isn't just
a brute,
isn't just Unga Bunga caveman, because he sees Taiju coming at him and he's like,
coming at him with a giant rock.
He's like, wait a second, there is no way that this guy is actually going to like attack me. But he can't put it together in time. What the distraction is for is Yuzuriha chucks a bowl of black powder at him.
Looking like one of the birds out of Stormvale Castle, just yeeting some gunpowder at him.
Yes, and because Tsukasa, in his caveman mindset, viewed women as only a means of reproduction, did not notice to pay attention to her. And I'm like, that's a character trait you probably could have made more apparent before making it the crux of your dramatic moment, but okay. That's the one kind of gripe, is like the narrator having to explain that character motivation to me in the moment. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, admittedly, this is a being told moment for Tsukasa's characterization, not an informed one through what he's done. But like,
it's also worth noting that like the more egalitarian a situation is, the less sexist people become. So considering it's a survival situation, he really should have known better.
I will give, for all the other amazing moments of characterization in the reading that we've done for this week, I will give the story this one.
It's definitely no Demon Slayer.
I give Demon Slayer a lot of slack. I'm giving this particular moment slack because I haven't needed to give it any previously.
Slack at any other point.
But Yuzuriha throws a pot of gunpowder, which Tsukasa kicks. Like, he kind of reflexively kicks it, spreading the black powder everywhere. And the big rock that Taiju threw causes some sparks that makes an explosion. Because Taiju is ultimately a peaceful person, he worked off of the assumption that Tsukasa would be wary enough to dodge the blast.
And have the superhuman strength, speed, and agility to do so. But then again, he did also catch a crossbow bolt out of the air with his bare hand. So honestly,
again,
fair.
I'm giving it to the manga.
There's also the element of Taiju is like, Senku would know I would not be okay with a plan that killed somebody. And then there's Tsukasa coming out of the explosion smoke like, yeah, I knew that wasn't going to kill me. There's no way that this guy is going to immediately jump to murder after everything that's happened.
Tsukasa throwing aside his burning lion pelt cloak and tightening his like kilt around him as his muscles are rippling in the daylight.
Haha, your plan failed. I'm only hotter now.
I'm only hotter now. My power has arisen.
Damn it! Stop it, Sam!
But using the explosion as distraction, our heroes run off with Senku's limp corpse. It's when Tsukasa, or not Tsukasa, it's when Yuzuriha mentions that Senku sacrificed himself that Taiju goes, wait a minute. That's literally what he would do. Not because he's selfish, but because Senku is the kind of guy that looks at an ABC problem and chooses D because D is the option that gets everyone out.
I think there's a point where it even shows like
they flash back to a personality test, I think.
It's basically a variation on the trolley problem, and Senku's immediate reaction is, I would switch the train onto a different track that I built with the power of science, because making me choose between the two options is stupid.
From the very start, I'd find a way to save everyone. Senku, that wasn't one of the options. I don't care. Taiju, remembering this moment, is like, he would never do the sacrifice play if
he would never just give up. He'd keep trying until the last moment.
So there has to be some trick. And that's when Yasuria mentions the neck thing, and he's like, the neck thing. And he goes and looks, and there's a bit of petrification still on his neck, right where the spinal column meets the skull.
And the other thing that was noted when they got the last bit of petrification off of Yuzuriha's foot was that it was physically painful to have the stone on. But once the miracle fluid was poured on, it recovered the damage somewhat. Like they all have like markings from where their stone bodies had been cracked by time.
They have cool scars.
Yeah, which are like healing points of healing from when they were petrified, like rock.
It healed their bodies, but if the damage is too severe, like as mentioned previously, Senku had tried using the revival fluid on a broken a broken statue person, and it just created bits of flesh. So it has restorative properties, not just restoring you from being petrified, but also just restorative properties in general. But is it strong enough is the important point here, as the bit of the stone on the back of his neck is crumbling away.
And that is the end of our reading, as the manga says, all right, time for a flashback to Senku being in the stone.
Like, because Senku's eye had been staring blankly up at the sky. There's a shot like focusing in on his eye right as the chapter ends.
And that is the end of our reading, the prescribed end of prologue by the mangaka. I know, Jacob, you did read a bit ahead because you were unsatisfied with this particular ending. Please elaborate.
Okay, so I personally felt that like because it's trying to leave ambiguous if like this is the last gasp of Senku, or if he recovers from this. I personally felt that the answer was obvious. Now, with that said, I might have been surprised. To say nothing else, I think this is a really good example of quality, because I just read the next couple of chapters to see what the actual answer was, because I really wanted to know. It's like I'm expecting a fake out, but what if? I won't spoil whether or not I feel the revival is obvious because Senku is on a lot of covers, but like it occurred to me, and the thing that spurred me on is like, is he just only ever going to be in flashbacks now? That would be a really ballsy thing for the manga to do. So I am aware of the next couple of chapters. The fact that this is one of the rare cases where I literally couldn't stop myself from going further is a really good sign of just how quick and how fun the reading is for Dr. Stone.
Jake had recommended that we go a few chapters further. I, admittedly, because of time and also because I wanted to play Elden Ring, I still haven't beat Millennia. I didn't.
But yeah, like I don't know. As someone who's like read the entire thing, on this reread, I think especially on this reread, I didn't feel like there was any ambiguity to the end of the prologue. I think it's tonally is very obvious from everyone who's read it what happened. Obviously this isn't my first time reading, so I'm probably a little bit biased, but like I felt like it's a very clear story being told throughout the prologue.
Jay, you're the other one who hasn't really had any experience. What was your take on the end of our reading?
For our first chunk, I thought I also identified that it was a cliffhanger, and also probably in hindsight knew that it probably was not going to end the way, like there was going to be some continuation and it was a fake out, so to say. But I think it was a good section. As I mentioned before, I have been tracking Dr. Stone, but kind of been holding back against actually reading it because I wanted to read it and or watch it for a couple years now. Really excited. And all of my expectations were met and then some. So I know we haven't gotten to this question yet, but you can probably guess what my response will be.
Yeah, for me, from what Jake told me, I was kind of the opinion that it would be a absolutely wild subversion for the manga to just kill off Senku and then have to rely on Taiju and Yuzuria being friends with a super genius to draw upon the knowledge of said super genius to remake the world. That'd be really cool. I don't think that's actually what's happening. It's an opportunity cost situation. I'm not docking the manga for not doing that. I'm just saying it would have been crazy if it did.
Yeah, and for my perspective, basically the situation I was in was I felt compelled to read further. It's sort of obviously meant to be a cliffhanger, and it's very much the case where like this is an excellent ending point because especially where it does end up going again, whether or not it goes in the obvious direction or if it does the subversion. This is like the prologue. So like this being the chunk to read is fine. It's just I don't know. I guess the it I guess you could even say again, I sort of take this as a sign of quality of the thing because like the fear that it might actually go in the direction of doing this unthinkable thing of killing the guy on the cover just compelled me to see whether or not it actually did go there or not. And so I read ahead a little bit and that's that's sort of the long and short of it.
Indeed. But so for favorite character, this is honestly a really tight contest for me because I do love every character for reasons I've expounded upon in this episode, but I'm going to have to give it to Senku because I I love genius characters. And I have become painfully aware of all the way that genius characters can be handled poorly. Basically, what I'm saying is that it hasn't been done right since Artemis Fowl. Ask me about the movie.
Next time on the Over Manga Cast.
Don't tempt me, Jacob. There is a comic book of the first book. I will do it.
Oh, I thought you meant we'll watch the movie, because I was about to say, if you want to listen to an episode again where me and Sam have only watched 15 minutes of something and then quit or fell asleep, you can just watch the Attack on Titan episode.
Exactly.
That is a good episode. I do recommend that one.
But what I'm getting at is that Senku is the best hyper genius character I've read since Artemis, and I mean that as the absolute highest of praise. So he is my favorite character in this reading. It's by a razor thin margin, and that's wholly because he plays to my aesthetic. Jake, favorite character?
Well, the interesting thing about this series is that, at least as of right now, there are functionally only 4 characters in the story, but they're all very distinctive in very different ways, which means it is hard to pick out which of them does one gravitate towards more, because it's like it's not about picking the good character, it's about picking from among several options. But for me, the instant that I was just a couple of pages into the first chapter, and I immediately knew who my favorite character was. And it is 10 billion% not because I very directly identify with almost everything about the way he thinks, but Senku is definitely my favorite character.
My man.
I'm not gonna lie. There are a lot of cases where, like, some of the vocal tics that he has, I noticed that I do. And
I'm not gonna lie. Jake, I've known you for over a decade. I saw it too.
It was a fun moment where I'm like, yeah, this guy is like me in manga form, but like the person I'd want to be, like the ideal version of me.
You kin with him.
I kinned with him so hard, and it made an already good series even more enjoyable. You can understand why the cliffhanger affected me so much, because I kin with Senku on a pretty deep level.
All right, Jay, favorite character?
So this was a little bit of a tie between 2 characters for reasons. Shut up. Okay, so
Audience at home, those reasons are abs.
Shut up! Okay. It wasn't just abs. Sometimes it was arms. Okay.
Shut up. Anyway, so as I'm trying to say, I really was torn between, first of all, my boy Senku. I am very much drawn to intellectual types. So yes. Also the fact I like his humor in a way. It's hard to really explain, but the fact that he was kind of able to kind of get some intellectual ribs in while still, not taking it too far, I guess. Be a little bit respectful and reel himself in. But also his humility.
He has very dry humor, which I feel you do as well. So
Okay. But yeah, so Senku, and then I swear I can fix him.
yeah, I kind of saw that one coming. Well, to be fair, it is a good character choice.
Look, I can't lie. Tsukasa's hot as hell.
He's too hot. It's not fair.
Guys, I just want to tell you, this manga's full of hot characters. Don't worry.
Fair. Why?
Y'all remember the Platinum Zend episode where I was like, oh, this character is super hot, and then I realized that they were a metaphor for the ugliness within. Tsukasa's just hot without that hat part. Like, yeah, he's a villain. Yeah, there's ugliness within. It doesn't physically reflect.
He's not that on the nose with the... Well, because, I mean, the big difference is Tsukasa, in a lot of ways, is not a bad person at heart. It's just his ideals and morals are awful and corrupted.
Senku literally says he's a good guy and also a murderer.
Yeah.
But, Matt, I saved you for last because you have read this manga the whole way through. So, taking into account this reading that we just recently did, favorite character?
Okay, so if I have to limit myself to only characters who have appeared in this section, I'm going to have to say that my favorite character is Gen Asagiri. Obviously, that means nothing to either of you. I just enjoyed that there was a little scene where he's there. There's some good foreshadowing of characters who show up later in this part, because on this reread I just noticed, wait a second, oh man, like the backgrounds, they just put people in, and I'm like, ooh, good play.
Yo.
Yep. Also Kohaku, great, doesn't mean anything of actual characters who actually appeared in this. I gotta go with Tsukasa. I'm a sucker for like a really good villain, and he's like actually just a genuinely good villain in that he's doing what he thinks is right, and from a certain viewpoint, his morality is sound. Like, this isn't I'm an evil villain. This is, no, your worldview makes sense. I just disagree with it on a fundamental level, but I'm not thinking you're like a self-interested party. You just have a diametrically opposed worldview. You're not a bad person. You're doing what you think is right. I just disagree. Like... And it's like, I really like that. He's just a really good guy. Amazing art on everything. Boichi knows how to make attractive people, and will do it all the time.
It's like...
I'm on board with it.
Find a panel of Tsukasa where he isn't goated, and I'd pay you all my money if you could find it, because I don't think you can. But, next question. Theories on the petrification.
Well, I'll just jump in here. I'm kidding.
Yeah. yeah, Matt, with all the foreknowledge, what are your theories?
You see, my theories are the best because they're correct.
Matt is the smartest. Yeah.
I mean, that's just objectively true, Jacob.
Anyway, my theory is kind of basic. It's just, there is a Gaia, there is a Mother Earth spirit, and she said, y'all humans, you around too much, have time out, and that was it.
I actually also have a theory, because one thing that I noticed is, and it was actually as I was skimming through a second time, one of the things I noticed is that when the light happens, in the very beginning, there is like this mushroom cloud thing.
I noticed that too. It looked an awful lot like a meteor impact.
Well, one of the things I was thinking of is the thing it reminded me of is the mushroom cloud of a nuke. And that immediately made me think that some kind of weapon went off. So I'm thinking that this is man-made. And like to some extent this might be me overanalyzing the exact amounts of time that Senku is mentioned and the fact that like it's slightly forward in the future. It's, it's like 20-ish, 30-ish years in the future of when the series was published. I'm thinking that this is because this also would be interesting building into the themes of the story. I'm thinking that this is like a weapon, and it's like it's a science gone wrong sort of situation where
so now we need Senku for science gone right.
I mean, honestly, something along those lines, because I mean, I don't think that Senku would be that challenged by this, but it almost like that would almost be a thing like someone holding this up as like, this is why science is bad, and then Senku being like, no, this is why there's a method. You don't just push the go button on science. You test theories, you have safety measures, you have an entire building full of petrified birds that you test the different concoctions on, because if they interact in weird ways, you could create monsters or something. Like noticing the particular shape of like, because it's like it was a light that went off that turned everybody to stone, but that sort of made me think that it's like it's the light of an explosion that dispersed something. That seems like a weapon.
And Jay, do you have any theories on the petrification?
So petrification, I had postulated that it was something similar in line with what Jacob was discussing, just because the fact that it's alluded to several times that perhaps it was some kind of weapon or attack, or I assume that whether it was attack, whether it was premeditated, or whether it was some kind of terrible testing accident, could be later determined. But I'm kind of that mindset that it was some kind of experiment or some kind of accident. Yeah.
Science gone wrong sort of thing.
So we have Matt with the foreknowledge keeping quiet. Jake and Jay saying that it was probably some sort of science thing gone wrong, and me being like, Earth Mother said die. Yeah, sounds
Seriously, what did the sparrows do? Explain that.
What did the sparrows do? Come on.
What did the sparrows do?
Why are you gonna punish the birds for us?
Matt's over there smiling wickedly, knowing exactly what the sparrows did.
Yeah, it's like every time we talked about doors in the Chainsaw Man series. And Matt just being like,
I think you would find that your two ideas are not as different as you may have originally assumed. It was the sparrows. They're enacting civil war.
It was the sparrows all along. Yeah, and there's a baby in the nuclear reactor.
Anyway, would you continue reading? This is a yes from me, but like with an asterisk. Not because like I wouldn't, but because it's kind of a surprising would. Like everything I've heard about Dr. Stone made me think that this would be the kind of series that I would enjoy, but wouldn't exactly gravitate to. It made me think like, oh yeah, no, this is something that it would have been like one of the ones that I would have come back to if I was bored on a Saturday and needed, something to kill a few hours. But no, this is something that's actually like legit gripped my attention, and I feel like I should keep up with it in order to understand the mystery. So instead of a soft yes, it's a hard yes from me. Jay, would you keep reading?
I mean, yes. I already have read past our assigned reading. All right. So I joined Jacob there, but I do agree that this is really good. I've waited this long and it exceeded my expectations.
All right. And well, Jake, you have continued reading, so I'm not going to ask you.
Yeah. Let me tell you about chapters 13,
Oh, I read up
14,
to
and
16.
15.
No. We've run too long already.
Yes, it's that good.
So look forward to part 2 of our discussion, but that is going to be later. We have many things to get to in the meanwhile.
Indeed.
For now, thank you everyone for tuning in to the Over Manga Cast. Make sure to follow us on all of your social medias where we are at Over Manga Cast. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, probably something else. I try not to pay attention to social media and fail every day.
You can catch us on YouTube. That's a great way to give comments on individual episodes. Like, comment, and subscribe for that old algorithm. Also, reviews on your podcatcher of choice are greatly appreciated.
We love hearing from you, and sometimes you can even suggest things in the reviews, and we'll put them on our reading list.
Sometimes we actually have periods of time where we don't know what we would like to read and could use the farming out. But next week is not one of those moments, as we are returning to a podcast favorite, a fan favorite, as we are going back into Spy X Family, chapters 36 through 57. So tune in for that, as we are going to be reading more Spy X Family to prep ourselves for the anime, which we are all eagerly awaiting, and we'll see you next Thursday. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.